Today, I'm going to give you another lesson that I learned from my very first business venture. The last few days have been really cool and really interesting. I've been getting a lot of calls, texts, emails, comments, DMs. I just appreciate everybody's support first and foremost, but just really asking questions about my first business venture, which of course was a tech company you all know by now. But I'm going to give some more feedback about the things that I've learned, another major thing that I learned during that time period that I've taken with me literally throughout the rest of my entrepreneurial career. All right, I'm going to talk about it today. Stay tuned. Three, two, one. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Tremain Show. I'm Tremain Davis, and today I'm going to give you another lesson that I've learned from my very first business venture. All right, and that lesson is that timing is everything. Timing. That is one of the major lessons that I learned during that time of starting my very first business venture. So you all kind of know the story now. If you don't know the story, please go back and check out my last couple of videos called My First Business Venture or My First Business. Great videos. I did a part 1 and a part 2. It was a funny story to me. I guess looking back on it is all 2020. Hindsight is 2020. So, I see things very clearly now that I should have done better, could have done better, things that decisions that I made that I probably wouldn't have made if I knew then what I know now, that type of thing. So, it was a learning lesson for me ultimately. But I had some real key takeaways that have literally stayed with me the rest of my entrepreneurial career, which has been over the last 20 years. The first thing I talked about, which was yesterday, is that I needed to think bigger. One thing that, you have to do as an entrepreneur is you have to be able to think bigger, broaden your scope of thought. And be able to see around corners, be able to see where the market is going, and just have that understanding that you're not in just this singular little lane. If you can just have some awareness of what's going on around you and around your business, it would definitely give you a bigger perspective and open up more opportunity. So that's something that I learned from my first business ventures, that I needed to think bigger. We were sitting right at the nexus, right at the starting point of a major revolution in technology, which was streaming video, things like Netflix, things like Facebook, things like YouTube. These platforms were literally being developed around that time period. Everything was going to streaming video. Everything was going to online. Everything was going to, so many different areas of it. Software as a service. All of these things were really being developed around that time. And we were right in the middle of that. Now, had we known that, or had we, just had some understanding or some situational awareness of, and that's exactly what I'm talking about here, we would have been able to pivot or understand that we needed to pivot and stop trying to solve the small problem of sports recruitment and look to try to solve the bigger problem of streaming video. Even if we would have had a small platform that didn't even, that had a beta tested, solution that barely worked in the streaming video space, that by itself would have been worth 50, 75, $100 million because we were going where the market was going. So sports solution and sports recruitment, that was a great problem to solve, but there was a much bigger one that we could have been solving. The second thing, and this is what I want to talk about today, timing is everything. So timing for me is something that I had to learn through experience from starting my first business. So of course, as I've explained all this time, we were right in the middle of a revolution that was just about to happen. Now, if we would have started this business literally 2 years later, 3 years later, some of the technology that would have made our platform really go, which was the core technology from the engine that we were trying to build, would have been mainstream by then. Now, of course, when we were doing it, people were working on it, people were inventing it. Mark Cuban, of course, he sold his company for $5 billion that had some of this technology, but I just didn't have any perspective or understanding that that's what was going on. And so timing to the market is something that I think sometimes is overlooked. You think you have the best idea, but the timing sometimes just is not right. So our same company 3 years later would have been a massive success because we would have still been able to solve the sports recruitment problem. But the tools that we would have needed as far as streaming video, as far as, the whole smartphone revolution and things like that, those things were starting to come online just a few years down the track. So you really have to think about timing sometimes. Sometimes it's the right idea at the wrong time. It's the wrong idea at the right time. That type of thing. But the timing is something that you generally overlook as an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not one of those people that just says, all right, when should I do this? I'm always a proponent of right now. If you have an idea, do it right now. I'm always one of those people. Go out and try, go out and try, go out and try. But you'll realize over time as you get out there as an entrepreneur that sometimes, especially when you look back on it, it's like, oh man, the timing was a little bit off of this. And timing could mean what it means for so many different people. Excuse me, doesn't have to be market dynamics all the time. Could be family, could be kids, could be anything, but sometimes timing is one of those things that you can't really calculate. You don't really put into your equation when it comes to your success narrative. And that's, of course, me as an entrepreneur, and I'm just one of those jump in head first people. I was the same way. So when I look back on my very first business, I look back on a time period that I was in. And if I would have recognized the time that I was in, I might have made some different moves. So, from a takeaway standpoint, key takeaways, those are two of the biggest things that I took away from that time period. First, that I needed to think bigger. And the second one is timing. I think timing to market was a huge thing for us during that time. If we would have waited, of course, I wasn't going to wait, but just waiting a couple more years, there are actually a couple of companies that did really well in the sports recruitment space that came out like a couple years right after us. One of them was actually on Shark Tank. I could not believe it. I'm a huge Shark Tank guy, and I watched Shark Tank, 8-9 years ago now, one of their earlier seasons. And man, I'm sitting there watching a company that literally was the same company that I had back in 2001. You could have just taken their name off and put our name at the top of it. And it was the same exact company. And they got an investment, I don't know, $1 million, something like that from Damon John or one of the other sharks. And I just couldn't believe it. I was flabbergasted sitting there watching that on TV because I'd had that idea 10 years prior, 11 years, 12 years prior to me watching that show. So that just goes to show you, sometimes your ideas are good, but sometimes it's just bad timing, or sometimes you just need to think bigger. Sometimes it's just a little bit of something, the margin of error sometimes is very small as an early stage entrepreneur. But you take those lessons, you learn from them, and then you go on to the next thing and push on to your next success. All right, as usual, like, subscribe, share. I'm Tremain Davis, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace. This video is brought to you by Davis & Davis Investments and Management, a full-service business solutions firm. So whether you need one-on-one business coaching or training, or whether you need business strategy development, or if you just need to learn how to shoot professional videos from your iPhone so you can move some of your content online, we've been helping businesses win for over 10 years. So click the link below, grab your free consultation to see if we're the right fit for you.